Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. My name is Kartik. I'm one of the co-founders of ETHGlobal, and I want to welcome all of you to the UniCode Kick-off. So all of you are watching this on ETHGlobal.tv. For those of you who are not familiar with this, we created this custom interface to do all of our events, so be sure to log in and say hi. And if you have any questions for our speakers, especially as we go live and do any of these talks, you can ask those questions on the chat. And we'll be able to relay those questions to our speakers. And for anybody who also logs in and engages with us, we'll be giving out NFT POAPs for all participants. So this event is organized by ETHGlobal. And for those of you who don't know, ETHGlobal is an organization with a very simple mission. Our goal is to bring in thousands of developers into the Web3 ecosystem. And we do this primarily by running hackathons and summits. And UniCode is no exception. We're super excited to be doing this partnered event with the Uniswap Grants program. And I'm super excited to share that we have over 320 hackers participating in this hackathon from 48 different countries spanning 17 different time zones. Not only that, we have over 20 ecosystem mentors, 6 technical mentors, and 7 ecosystem partners are going to be here with us for the next 14 days, helping out and answering any of your questions, whether you're stuck on the DeFi side or Solidity side or the front end side or design, you name it, we'll be there to offer any sort of support. These are some of our amazing partners that we have on board for this event. And I'll be going over what you can do in terms of engaging with them, winning prizes for some of the prizes that everybody's offering, and how everything will look like from the hackathon side very soon. So on top of all of that, we are giving away over $125,000 in prizes, and all those details will be shared in this session, and stay on for a lot of those details. All right, so let's get into some of the event stuff. So the most common question we've gotten here is, what can I build for UniCode? The answer and the possibilities here are endless. There's a lot of things you can do here, especially using the protocol. There's stuff around making lending, trading, hedging better. You can do optimizations for liquidity and just creative things that we've seen with LP position management. You can do asset management related tools and analytics. A lot of people are interested in understanding how you can understand what's going on a lot better from looking at on-chain data. Then there's also stuff around layer 2 integrations. You can even write documentation and make the rest of the ecosystem better. And of course, contribute to or create new developer tools. There's a lot of potential here, and we're also going over some of the things that you can do later on in the day if you are in need for different ideas to work on. So let's quickly go into what the next 10 days look like. So I'm going to be covering how does team formation works, how you can get help if you're stuck, all the prizes that you can win. We're going to talk about some of the talks and the workshops that we have planned, and also how judging and submission will work for the hackathon. The most important piece here is with respect to communication, everything is happening on Discord. So the Discord is available through your dashboard. You can authorize your Discord and you'll be able to get the automatic permissions to see all the UniCode specific channels. Keep in mind that the channels are private for anybody who's participating. So if you do not see a UniCode heading in your Discord sidebar with all these channels on this image, ping us in any of the other Discord channels that you are able to find, or send us an email, and we'll be able to make sure that the permissions are set for everybody who is participating in the hackathon, whether you're a mentor or a hacker or a sponsor or a partner. All these things are managed directly automatically, so keep in mind that everything will happen here. Similarly, all these if you have any questions, whether you're stuck on how to use a certain protocol or a tool, or just in general, any other technical help that you're in need of, there are channels dedicated for just support. So you can head over and type in your question there with any of the relevant details, and somebody will be there to answer your requests. On top of all of that, we'll also be doing calendar invites for all talks and workshops. So you should have gone a whole set of invites directly to your calendar. You can just see all the talk names and those details, whether it's the speaker, when it is, and how you can find out more. The whole schedule for this hackathon is also on the website, and keep in mind that we want all of this thing to be asynchronous, so it is totally okay if you are not able to meet or join a call because of a time zone constraint, or designing all of this thing to be easily digestible independent of what time zone you're in. And all that information is available on the website, which is unicode.ethglobal.com. All right, so quickly into the hackathon logistics. So the hackathon officially begins now, which means that as of me saying this sentence, you can start working on all of your projects, and you can work on your projects with other people and have a team of up to 5 different people. You have 10 days from now to submit. So today is Friday, which is day 1, and you are going to be submitting all of your projects on Sunday of next week. In terms of rules and criteria, we want to keep this fairly straightforward. Everything that you're going to be submitting, in order to qualify for a prize, it must be done during the course of this hackathon, which means that all of your submissions need to be done from today to the next Sunday. Every submission to qualify for any prize must use the UniSwap protocol in some form. If you have any questions around the nuances of what this means or what this count, or what something count, please let us know. We'll be here to answer questions on Discord or email. And only RSVP attendees are eligible to win any prizes. So if you're working with somebody on the team, if they are not listed as a team member on your dashboard, they will not be counted. So please let us know if everybody is there on your team. And I'm going to make sure that we have all that information ahead of time. And again, if there's any other questions or some clarification you need, or there's some edge case that you think you're a part of, we'll be happy to clarify. So reach out to anybody in the ETHGlobal team on Slack or Discord or email. Next up is, in general, what if you're new to all of this? A lot of you are participating here for the first time, whether it's to the first time at an ETHGlobal hackathon or first time going deep into DeFi. We have a lot of support here for anybody who's in this situation. You can head over to find a team channel on Discord to reach out to other potential team members who may be interested in pairing up with you, whether it's some skill set that they need and you have, or you have an idea and you need somebody to help build and work with you. You can find everybody who's in this similar position and potentially form a team. We also encourage all of you to say hi and introduce yourself in the UniCode chat channel. There's over 300 of you from nearly 50 countries, and that's amazing. And we'd love to learn more about who you are and what you're excited about. And also, if you are curious to have, if you're still interested in looking for any ideas for the hackathon, there will be a call today on just ideation and looking for different ideas and what's possible here to build over the course of the hackathon. So you can join that call today and participate with anybody who is also interested in building a team or looking for other ideas. And of course, it's not required that you form a team or have different team members. If you are interested in working on your own, that is totally okay, and it's not a requirement, so it's totally fine. And then also on talks and workshops, there's a lot of stuff happening for this hackathon. There's a lot of content for beginners, intermediate skill levels, and experts. So whether you are super new here or you want to understand how something works deeply under the hood, we have a lot of stuff planned for you today and on Monday and a few other days of next week. All that is going to be available on the website from the schedule. You can sign up and see everything. And all that information is also available on your info center that is linked to your dashboard. And once again, if you miss something because of time zones or any other conflict, it is totally okay. All that content is recorded, so you'll be able to catch up immediately after that talk or conversation or the call ends and watch it directly from our website, the recording. And the website again is unicode.ethglobal.com. And then a few more things. So check-ins. If you have been part of an ETHGlobal hackathon in the past, some of them have been multi-week events. For this one, we're going to do one quick check-in with everybody next week. This will be on Monday, and we'll just quickly ask how things are going. And if you need any help, whether it's on an idea or understanding about something that you're stuck on from a technical level, and this will just let us ensure that you are able to get the help you need. And of course, similar to our previous events, you all stay to participate at this event. And as you kind of go through that process all of next week, we'll be able to get you all set with your stake refund. And all this happens, again, asynchronously over your dashboard, so you'll be able to see everything directly by going to hack.ethglobal.com/unicode. And then in terms of judging, so judging will take place on Monday, November the 8th. That is day 11, starting today. And for judging, you'll be required to make a 4-minute demo of the video. This will only be a video submission, so we won't be taking live demos. And we really encourage all of you to not do this last minute, because this will require some practice and planning to make sure that you can fit everything that you want to talk about in 4 minutes. So all those details that you need will be soon available on the dashboard directly, and you'll be able to go ahead and submit your projects very soon next weekend. And I also want to talk about our code of conduct. So keep in mind that all the event rules and code of conduct is listed on ethglobal.com/rules. But in general, to summarize all of this, please be respectful, and harassment and abuse in any form will not be tolerated. So if you see anything that is not ideal for any other member on our community, please reach out to us. Be sure to report that, and we'll be able to take immediate action. And you can ping any global member on the team, whether it's through Discord or email. And finally, before we go into all the creative stuff and interesting stuff you're all here about, I want to make sure that I remind everybody to pace themselves. We really do not want this to be exhausting for you. We want you to have fun. This is all about learning experimentation. This is about understanding what is possible and how we can kind of do creative things or unique things with the tools and services that we have in this space. Very much the goal of our events at ETHGlobal is to bring on new people and bring on new creative ideas. So don't treat this like a competition. Even if you don't get to finish what you wanted to do initially today by the end of the submission deadline, it is totally okay. You will have a lot more opportunities to continue building and still getting the help from our ecosystem broadly. So with that, we are done with the logistics of UniCode. So let's go into a couple of other things around the rest of the event that I'm sure all of you are waiting for. So I want to quickly thank some of our amazing partners that are here participating at this event. So I want to especially thank Uniswap Grants program for making all of this happen. And we have Aztec Protocol Advisor, Polywrap, Omni Analytics Group, Skynet, and ENS who are also here making the event possible and bringing on their team members and staff to help all of you succeed in building really sweet and amazing projects. So we'll be going into the details of all the prizes that each of these partners are going to be giving. But before that, I have a quick video from the Uniswap Grants program team, and they're going to share how they can help everybody here and why they're excited to be part of UniCode for the next 2 weeks. So without further ado, I'll let them tell us who they are.
Hey guys, Boris from Uniswap Grants program here. First, let me thank the ETHGlobal team for organizing this great event. Also, big thank you to all the co-sponsors, Uniswap team, and all of you hackers that decided to take up the challenge and work on some great projects over the next 10 days. You are probably familiar with Uniswap, but I'll still make a brief introduction. Uniswap is a decentralized AMM exchange on Ethereum. There are 3 versions deployed, with version 3 being available on Optimism and Arbitrum L2 scaling solutions. As for the Uniswap grant program, we are the community-run grant program established by the Uniswap governance in an on-chain vote. Speaking of governance, voting, and proposals, we prepared a very interesting category for UniCode, titled Governance Enhancements. Governance is in the core of Uniswap, and we would like to see you bring some fresh innovation to it. Second category I'd like to introduce is Advanced Trading Tools. Here, we are looking for projects helping out our swappers. Whether it is helping them in decision making, tracking their portfolio performance, or just making their quality of life while using Uniswap better, we are interested to see what you come up with. In our last ETHGlobal Hackathon, we saw that a lot of you are interested in implementing different instruments on top of Uniswap. That is why we decided to create a separate category for such projects. Futures, with or without expiration, leverage positions, or something else, it is up to you. All will qualify in this category. Over the past year, Uniswap Grant Program supported a lot of different teams and individuals in creating helpful dev tools, libraries, SDKs, and more. For UGP grantees in New Ideas category, we would like to see some of them in new projects. List of all such projects can be found in our Hacker Guide. Last but not least, we created an innovation category. We didn't want to limit your creativeness, so any project which is Uniswap related will qualify. If you'll need any help while working on your projects, you will be able to reach us and the Uniswap team in Discord. We are looking forward to see all of the great ideas you guys will implement over the next 10 days.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Boris. So Boris went over how UGP is here to help and all the prices we're giving out. Don't worry if you missed it or didn't catch all those details, but I'll be going over that and sharing all of that very soon. And before we go into the prizes, I want to quickly invite Noah from the Uniswap Labs team. Noah is the head of engineering at Uniswap Labs, and he's going to be sharing a quick talk about Uniswap oracles. The talk is cleverly titled "The Price is Right." And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Noah to come on and tell us more about how you can get this working with V3. Welcome.
Thanks, Kartik, and thanks also for the great intro and lots of great information. We're super excited to partner with all these great groups that you've already heard from at Uniswap for you to create whatever your heart desires, and we're here to help. And so yeah, I thought I'd give a little presentation about something specific rather than just a general overview, because I thought that would be a bit more fun and just sort of inspire you, if not to work on oracles directly, to sort of understand the scope of the kind of things that you'll be able to build during these 2 weeks or so. So let me quickly share my screen here, and I'll confirm that everyone can see that.
Everything is good to go.
Great. Okay. So welcome. The Price is Right. Full disclosure, I actually haven't seen any episodes of this show, so I don't know. The title is about all I've got. But I figured I would talk a little bit about V3 oracles today. And I'm going to start off with this meme. I receive your gas, you receive TWAP. So ultimately, the Uniswap Oracle is a fully on-chain system of creating and distributing TWAPs, which is time-weighted average prices. A little bit of inside terminology there. Okay, so why are V3 oracles cool? Why am I talking about this as opposed to any other feature on Uniswap? Frankly, it's even a bit under the radar, right? Like most people, when they think of Uniswap, they don't think oracles. They think about trading or liquidity provision or ticks or concentrated liquidity or what have you. But I thought it would be fun to just chat a bit about oracles, because I think it features some of the really interesting design patterns that we developed in V3. And it's just a great example of how V3 can serve you as a developer and can be sort of a bedrock upon which you can build really interesting, really complex, other protocols, build out your ideas, things like that. So I'm just gonna hit each of these little bullet points here and just briefly describe like what I meant when I wrote this, and like why it might be interesting to you as a developer thinking about writing an integration on top of Uniswap. So accumulators. So that's the first bullet point. This one's pretty interesting. So there's a lot of history here. I won't go into the exhaustive details, but the way that we track prices in Uniswap in both V2 and V3, both of which feature Oracle, capabilities, we track prices via an accumulator. So what this basically means is that we don't just track the price and like store the price history over all time, because that's a prohibitively expensive thing to do. But what it turns out you can do is if you actually know the price at some time, T0, and you every second add the current price to that historical price, and you just keep this ongoing running sum that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger all the time, you can actually back out average prices within intervals by taking the difference in accumulator values. So if you take accumulator value at time 2 and time 1 and you subtract them, it turns out that the average, that value is the average price within that duration. And this can extend to any number of arbitrary intervals, and it's very flexible, and it's an interesting pattern, right? It's sort of somewhat non-intuitive, and there's lots of ways that we tried and failed to get this this pattern to work. And so anyway, accumulators is this very interesting pattern that you'll get exposed to if you've ever looked at the Oracle code. And so it's a good tool to have in your toolkit. Okay, integer overflow. What's this? So we're hyper optimized, we're hyper focused on optimizing for gas usage at Uniswap. So this is something we've sort of become notorious for. Sometimes, in fact, we actually sacrifice a bit of code quality or code sort of readability for gas efficiency. And so we're hyper focused on making sure that swappers are paying no more than they actually absolutely need to. And so what we've done is we've actually taken the timestamp, which again, as I mentioned, the Oracle is accumulating on a per second basis. And what we've done is essentially we've compressed the timestamp from 256 bits, which is its native representation in the EVM, down into 32 bits. And that lets you express a smaller range of times. And it's actually about 100 and something years. So, 2 to the 32 seconds is something like 100 years. And so actually what happens is every 100 years, the Uniswap oracles will all potentially overflow. And so we've actually written all the logic in the Oracle integration in V3 to be fully integer overflow resistant, it basically everything just works no matter if the integers overflow or not. And so this is a pretty non-intuitive, pretty interesting pattern. So again, if you're interested in overflow or being robust to 100+ year intervals of tracking prices, this Oracle is for you. Okay, variable length circular queues. This one's wild, very interesting. And don't feel like you need to understand all this, by the way. I'm just trying to pique your interest here. So what this means is in V3, unlike V2, we offer you the ability to natively calculate the TWAP, the time weighted average price, about which I'm going to go into more detail later. Don't worry if you still don't really understand what that is. But anyway, in V3, we offer you the ability to calculate this over basically any arbitrary time frame within the last about week or so. In V2, this wasn't the case. You had to do a lot more work actually in order to extract these average prices. And if you didn't sort of track a price at a particular time snapshot, you were unable, in the future to sort of retroactively go back and check what the price was at any point that wasn't that specific time that you tracked. We solved this problem in V3 by implementing variable length circular queues. And what this basically means is we, rather than tracking a single accumulator value, which just is overwritten on an ongoing basis, we actually track an array with a variable length, which stores each accumulator value for each new block that touch the Uniswap pair. So rather than having one value and just consistently overwriting it with a new accumulator value again and again and again, we actually stack and we push these accumulator values onto an array. And then when we reach the end of the array, let's say length 5 or length 10, we actually just loop back to the beginning, hence circular, and then we just keep writing in perpetuity, right? And what happens is you can actually increase the length of that array. And so by default, we don't make you pay as a swapper or an LP, we don't make you pay for this ability to read TWAPs in the far past. But if you want that feature, right, you can actually extend the length of this queue and get access to these historical prices. And so very complicated implementation. Don't take my word for it. You can go look. But a very interesting feature that was basically core to this improvement in oracles from V2 to V3. Okay, binary search. This is a cool one too. So again, now that we don't have just a singular observation, we have actually an array of them. We have this problem where we need to get the observation or the accumulator value or the price, right, at a historical time. And that time might be a long time ago. It could be a day ago, it could be an hour, it could be 2.5 hours, it could be a week. And we actually don't natively know where to look in this array for that value. And so what we actually have to do is a binary search. So we know that this circular queue is sorted with an offset, right? So because it's circular, you're never starting. It's not guaranteed to be sorted from index 0 to index max, but it is sorted sort of starting from the current index, and going around in a loop. And so we can actually abuse that feature by performing a binary search whenever we're looking for a historical observation at a particular time moment. And so again, don't take my word for it. This implementation is publicly available. You can look at it in our GitHub. Super interesting. And again, a great tool to have in your toolkit. Binary search, extremely efficient, log n complexity, a really great way to find data in a gas efficient way, given that your input data is sorted chronologically or by whatever sort of sorting criterion you care about. Okay, linear interpolation. We're almost done here, and then I'm going to actually explain what some of the Oracle stuff does rather than just titillating you with these fun little details. Okay, linear interpolation. This is a cool one. So as I mentioned, the accumulators and the oracles in general work on a per second basis, right? So you can get the price at any given second, which is what we sort of intuitively understand as humans, right? But what the EVM understands isn't just seconds, it's also blocks. And blocks are sort of the canonical unit of time in blockchain land. And so what we need to do actually is if there's a block at time 0 and then another block at time 13, let's say we want the price at time 10 or time 8, right? We can sort of, we know what it should be, right? It's just the price never changed between blocks because that's impossible. But we sort of need to we can't say that the price is what it was at time 0 or 13 because that's not quite right. You know what I mean? We need to sort of do some, interpolation between 0 and 13. And so linear interpolation just refers to the fact that the core, the V3 core code, which implements oracles, actually does this job of linearly interpolating between blocks. If you're looking for the price at a historical moment, which actually didn't have a block, but just happened to be between two blocks. So yes, this is another interesting feature. And then finally, we get to use all three Pythagorean means when we're using Oracle. So this is a pretty cool one. One thing I didn't mention actually is that we don't just track average prices in V3, we actually track average liquidity as well in the same fashion. And I won't go into much more detail than that, but suffice it to say that we're tracking average prices via an accumulator and average liquidity via the same. And what this lets us do is so first of all, we can get arithmetic means of ticks, which are a representation of prices in Uniswap v3, right? So arithmetic mean, great. And that's exactly using that logic that I mentioned earlier about the accumulator, right? Like if you have an accumulator value at time 2 and time 0, you can just take the delta, divide by the interval length, and there's your average over that interval, right? So that's an arithmetic mean. And so that's what we can do for ticks, say. What we do with liquidity is we actually track not just liquidity natively, but seconds over liquidity. For complicated reasons that, again, I'm not going to explain, but because we're tracking S over L and we're trying to get the average L liquidity, if you accumulate S over L on a sort of rolling basis, and then you divide out by seconds, which you can obviously get from just the duration of whatever period you're looking at, it turns out that's the harmonic mean, right? So the harmonic mean is like 1 over X, summed up, divided by like the X or something, I don't know if exactly I said it right, but you can look up a harmonic mean, and basically that's what this is. And there's different properties that the harmonic mean has relative to the arithmetic mean that make it actually pretty well suited for tracking average liquidity. It sort of downweights, it weights downward for low values of liquidity, which is good because you want to sort of, not put a lot of weight on sort of low liquidity pools, for example, right? So that's 2. And the third is a geometric mean. So it turns out that the arithmetic mean of A over B, when you sum it up over time, and B over A is actually different, right? And that's just because it's a property of the arithmetic mean. The arithmetic mean of ratios isn't equal to the arithmetic mean of the inverse of the ratios. A little bit unfortunate. And so in Uniswap v2, we actually tracked both A over B and B over A. So for ETH DAI, say, we tracked the ETH DAI price and also the DAI ETH price, which are basically, again, the same, right? But because of this quirk, the arithmetic mean, they aren't actually equal. And so we tracked both, which was a bit wasteful. And so in v3, what we've actually done is we track now the geometric mean price. And so instead of B over A and A over B, we actually track the root of the product of a bunch of observations of A over B. And actually, it doesn't matter if it's A over B or B over A, they're the same. If it turns out like if you have A0, B0, A1, B1, if you take the product of those and then take the root, the second root in this case, it's the same value as if you had just flipped everything, right? And so that's actually quite a nice feature. It gives you sort of a canonical price for 2 assets rather than 2, which you need to choose between and are ultimately sort of arbitrary, right? So it turns out that by tracking arithmetic mean ticks, which actually represent exponential prices, you get geometric mean prices. So arithmetic mean ticks correspond to geometric mean prices, meaning we've used all 3 means. So anyway, cool. Don't feel like you have to understand all this, but hopefully, again, it's just interesting and like prompts you to dive a bit more into the code, again, which I'm going to explain how to do very soon. So, okay, without further ado, let's move on from this. And we still have a bit of time left. So let's actually talk about like what Uniswap v3 oracles are, maybe now that I've fully confused everyone. So they are on-chain permissionless TWAPs, which again are time-weighted average prices. And so basically what they are is for any given liquidity pool on Uniswap, let's say ETH DAI as a great example, right? People are constantly trading with this pool. They're providing liquidity. And more importantly, or most importantly, perhaps they're arbitraging this price to match what the sort of true price of ETH DAI is across the entire market. And so the Uniswap price natively tracks the price of these assets, in an incentive compatible way, right? Like in this permissionless environment, there's always you'll make money by trading the price on Uniswap closer to the true price. And so, you'll just do that. And then as a benefit, right, we have access to this price now because of this Oracle feature. And so we can use the sort of true or arbitraged price of ETH DAI, say, as an input to any number of systems that we want to build on top. And so like the most obvious example, right, is if you want to offer people like leverage, where you deposit ETH and you want to let them withdraw some dollar denominated asset in return, up to some collateralization ratio, and then you want to maintain this sort of ratio and have a liquidation system and things like that. Well, you can actually do that natively if you have access to some kind of true price of ETH USD or ETH DAI or what have you. And so that's just one example of how tracking the price on Uniswap and having access to that on a historical basis, crucially, can actually be a really powerful way to have a permissionless system of prices that you can use as inputs to other economic, systems, say. So that is what TWAPs are. And this is a bit of an example. So if you were not following what I was talking about earlier with like the array of observations and things like that. So on the bottom here, let's start with this last row. So that's the V2 oracle, right? And so we have this price accumulator, which at time like 1 p.m., it looks like has a value of 11,400. Right. And then there's a bunch of blocks that go by. And then if we want to check again at time 2 p.m., this accumulator you see has increased. So it's 48,000. And so what you can do is you can take the difference, 48,000 minus 11,000, divide by 1 hour, and then you get the average price over that whole duration while the accumulator was ticking up. But crucially, what we didn't do in V2 is we didn't store this 11,000 value. You had to actually proactively go ahead and store it yourself, wait an hour, and then check what it was against that historical value. And so if you didn't store it, you're out of luck, and it's actually hard and costly and sort of frustrating to have to do this. So what we've done in V3, which is now the top row, we actually store all of these checkpoint values on a rolling basis, again in this circular queue. And so now at time 2, you don't have to have stored anything at time 1. You can actually just look back in the array using a binary search. Find that historical value, perform the delta, get your arithmetic average tick, and then derive the geometric average price over the whole interval. So this is super cool. And you can actually do this not just at one time, but like at any variable time in the whole duration of the tracked sort of period that the oracle is tracking. And again, you can see here it says up to 9 days later, right? The oracle is about a week or 8 or 9 days worth of data when it's fully initialized. And so this is a really powerful way to calculate any sort of arbitrary curve or price, average over this whole interval. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Okay, so why? More importantly, I've described more or less what Uniswap oracles are and how they work, but why would you use them? So the first is that they're economically robust. And I touched on this earlier, right? It's important to have full incentive alignment for a system to sort of be trustworthy. And so economically robust refers to the fact that, again, if the price of Uniswap of, let's say the ETH DAI pool diverges from the ETH DAI price on Coinbase or Binance or any other DEX on Ethereum or any other DEX anywhere, there's going to be money on the table for some arbitrageur to come in and trade the price back to its, fair or true value. And so economically robust refers to the incentive alignment that exists to push the Uniswap price close to the true price, which is, again, probably what you care about if you're building this second order abstracted economic system. The second is explicit manipulation costs. So, there are other ways to get prices on Ethereum, right? You can maybe just have a trusted party submit a price that, they have claimed is the price of ETH DAI on some, in some aggregate fashion. You can maybe have an external exchange like Coinbase, for example, sign cryptographically the price of ETH DAI on their system every so often, submit that price to the chain, and then use that as your source of truth. There's other projects out there that offer pricing as a service, and they'll sort of report on a periodic basis what the price is of various things. And it's not clear in any of those cases really what the manipulation cost is for a reporter to perform poorly or suboptimally or even maliciously. And so in Uniswap, that's not the case, right? Because the implementation is known, because we have a very clear data provenance pipeline, we know every step of the way what's happening, there is a cost to manipulate, right? You can pay money to push the Uniswap price away from its true value, but it will, the only way to do that is to incur economic losses, right? Because again, you're just feeding arbitrageurs money the more you push your price away and it gets arbitraged back. And so explicit manipulation cost refers to the fact that the only way to manipulate the system is to pay money in a fully public, transparent manner. Whereas with an off-chain reporter, it's not at all clear what the incentive structures are, how we're maintaining verifiability, trust, things like that. And so I think that this is an important property to have when you're designing an Oracle system. Okay, guaranteed uptime. This is obviously just a simple one. Uniswap is always on because Ethereum is always on, and there's no off-chain infrastructure. There's no reporting that can't happen. Of course, you can have a scenario where blocks are being stuffed and maybe no one is able to arbitrage the price on Uniswap, but I think that would be a sort of a more systemic issue on Ethereum and not something sort of that we have to worry about as a dApp level project. But in the general case, I think that guaranteed uptime is a huge feature And you don't need to have any liveness concerns about oracles when you're using Uniswap. And finally, zero counterparty risk. So I actually alluded to this earlier in the manipulation costs, but there's no party that's responsible for publishing prices or being timely or being fair or accurate. Again, it's fully algorithmic. It's just code. You can audit it yourself, and there's literally zero counterparty risk. There is smart contract risk, of course. There are economic considerations that you have to make, hence the first 2 points. But there's no actual party that is able to, to cheat or misuse your system. So hopefully that it motivates you, and it sort of explains why we think that decentralized permissionless oracles like Uniswap are very powerful, and of course maybe not as sort of fully accurate. Like they're not always going to track the exact price off chain of any of these different assets, because again, there's a little bit of arbitrage flow. There's the fact that you're just taking an average as opposed to looking at spot, which you can sort of trust off chain. But I think that these benefits are really quite strong, and they potentially outweigh those costs. Okay, so here's just an example of what can go wrong if you have a bad oracle, right? Like, so if you're a lending protocol and you're thinking, oh, the spot price should be fine. Well, what can happen is something disastrous, like the stack trace that you're seeing. So, there have been a couple examples historically of lending protocols, usually, or some variant of that, where they're using the price of an asset, again, as I mentioned before, to sort of collateralize the borrowing of another asset. And they're using more or less what can be referred to as a spot price, which is the immediate price at any given moment, which is fully manipulable, right? And there's like very little cost to manipulate the spot as opposed to an average, because you can do that synchronously as opposed to you being forced to do that over multiple blocks over a given time span. So these lending protocols historically like use the spot price, and in fact not even an off-chain spot, which would be more like an off-chain oracle reporter where it's accurate maybe, but there's like you don't know who that reporter is, and you don't know if you can trust them. But they actually use the spot price of an on-chain protocol, like they use the spot on a DEX to figure out the collateralization ratios. And so this is really dangerous, right? Because you can fully manipulate the spot sort of at quite low cost, exploit the lending protocol, as you can see here in this stack trace. This is BZX. And you can make a lot of money. You can wreck people. So so this is just a cautionary tale about the fact that using oracles is important. And if you're going to use oracles, maybe you should think about using a decentralized oracle network like Uniswap as opposed to a system of reporters, right? Okay, finally, how? So this is where I'm just going to give a couple links and sort of bail out here because I don't want to take too much more of your time. But there's a couple places to go to look. So the first link here is the V3 core code on Uniswap's GitHub. So what this is the implementation of oracles at the lowest possible level. This is going to have all the juicy details that I mentioned at the beginning: variable length circular queues, binary search, all this good stuff. So if you really if you want the sauce, that's where to get it. So V3 Periphery is a bit different. This is a repo where we write code that is at a bit of a higher level than core. And it doesn't implement the core, like it's not the implementation of V3. That's in core. What it is, though, is it's a set of sort of helper contracts, helper libraries, things that abstract a lot of the like nitty-gritty details for you, and basically offer a sort of smooth, developer-friendly, hopefully, API surface, right? And so an example of this is like the router contract, which is actually how you trade through Uniswap. That's a peripheral contract because it's never holding people's funds. It's not implementing the AMM functionality. It's simply like managing approvals. It's managing transfers, doing the core sort of swappage logic, doing swapping logic, doing slippage checks, things like that. Crucially, additionally, it also has a lot of Oracle functionality. So there's a library in there called Oracle Library, and it again offers like a bit of a smoother interface to using V3 oracles in a way that is going to be easier to digest as a third-party protocol that wants prices in some for some input to their system. Finally, there are some docs. So if I missed anything in this description of oracles, as I'm sure I did, you can look at this doc page here. Probably just the easiest way to search it is just go to the docs.uniswap.org site and like search for oracles rather than typing out this link. But there's a lot of information there about this system and why it might be interesting to you. And finally, of course, the Discord is always available as a place to ask questions about these things. And so I'll be on there. A bunch of team members and people from ETHGlobal and UGP and things like that will be we'll be hopefully on the Discord to answer those types of questions. And so, I want to wrap up, thank you, first of all, Oracles. I just wanted to say that, we're really appreciative that you guys are all here and taking time out of your, I'm sure, busy lives to hack for fun and maybe a little bit of profit. Hopefully this was interesting, just as a bit of a deep dive into a specific feature of V3 that is, near and dear to my heart. I wrote most of this code. I think it's really interesting. I'm excited to see people building on top of it. But I just want to say that there's so many areas like this around swapping, around the user experience, around LPing, around all kinds of really interesting things that that are possible to build on top of Uniswap. So hopefully this is helpful and inspiring. And I know there's lots more to come. I know that Aztec, I talked with those folks and they're really excited about some interesting ideas, building on like layer 2 and zero knowledge to trade on Uniswap. I know there's a lot of interest in Optimism and Arbitrum. So yeah, I'm excited to see what you all build. Don't feel like you have to use oracles, but again, thank you for your time, and I'm gonna wrap it there.
Awesome, thanks, Noah. This is super helpful. I think it's a really good way to point out that it's not just about plugging into the liquidity and trading. There's a lot more you can do with V3. Oracles is a perfect example. I was going to say all those memories of me prepping for engineering interviews are finally coming back. And now you can see them in practice, and hopefully everybody gets to use this too. So with that, I want to thank you for giving us that great overview. For everybody who has questions, please, you can ping Noah or the broader UGP and Uniswap Labs team on the Discord for any help or questions. And hope that a lot of you build really cool ways to use and integrate oracles. All right, with that, we got a couple of things to go before we wrap up this call. I want to quickly get into the prizes, which I know a lot of you have been waiting for. So without further ado, let's kick into all the prizes that we have available for the hackathon. So first up is the Uniswap Grants program. So I know you saw Boris list out all the prices that they're giving, but we'll go into a lot more details here. So we've asked Boris to make another quick announcement on each of those prizes, and we'll play that for you now.
Hey guys, Boris from Uniswap Grant program here. I'd like to tell you more about the prizes we prepared for the UniCode. We have 5 different categories we will give prizes in. Governance enhancements is the first category, and here we would like to see projects that innovate on the Uniswap's governance process. In the category Advanced Trading Tools, all projects or tools helping out swappers will be considered. For the Novel Swapping Instruments category, projects working on things such as leverage trading on futures will compete. Over the past year, a lot of great libraries, SDKs, and tools were developed with the support of the Uniswap Grant program, and we would like to see some of them put to work in the UGP Grantees in New Ideas category. And last but not least, in the Innovation category, everything goes as long as it is Uniswap related. Hope you find our categories interesting, and happy hacking.
Awesome, thanks, Boris. So just to repeat some of those prizes, Uniswap will be giving $50,000 between projects working on all those listed categories. And you can find all those categories on unicode.ethglobal.com/prizes. And we'll have 10 finalist teams where each of those teams will be winning $5,000 each. Next up, we have Aztec, and Joe will be talking about the prizes you can win from the Aztec protocol.
Hi guys, my name's Joe. I'm one of the co-founders of the Aztec network. Aztec is a privacy-focused layer 2 running on Ethereum. We're thrilled to be sponsoring the UniCode Hackathon this weekend, as we've just launched our new product, Aztec Connect, to test network. Aztec Connect allows users with shielded funds on Aztec to transact privately and with 10 to 30 times gas savings with any L1 smart contract and layer 1 liquidity. Users can now interact with Uniswap v3 using their shielded funds on Aztec and do it for a fraction of the cost of layer 1 and with ironclad privacy. We'll be sponsoring a 5,000 ZK prize for the team that writes the best bridge contract, and I'm hosting a workshop at 8 PM tonight to go through how to write a bridge contract and discuss some of the ideas for the best bridge contracts that we think will enhance the Uniswap v3 protocol with privacy and scaling. I'll be discussing time-weighted average orders with privacy and private one-tick range orders using the v3 engine. If you're interested in dark liquidity and dark pools, come along. If you've got any questions, feel free to ping me in the Discord. Good luck and happy hacking.
Thanks, Joe. To repeat some of the prizes from Aztec, Aztec will be giving $5,000 in ZK DAI for the top bridge contract that enables private transactions on top of V3 using Aztec Connect. It's a super exciting space to be working on, so I hope all of you check that out. And next up, we have Miles from Visor Finance, and they'll be sharing what they're giving as prizes.
I'm Miles from Visor Finance, a DeFi protocol for active liquidity management. In May of this year, Uniswap moved from Uniswap v2 with an infinite price range applied to each pair to Uniswap v3, where LPs can concentrate their capital within custom price ranges, providing greater amounts of liquidity within a certain price range. In doing so, LPs construct individualized price curves. Because of this, liquidity provision now has a range of complex strategies that can be applied to positions resembling a traditional market structure and financial products. Visor is the protocol and venue that allows for the deposit of assets and management of these new liquidity positions. The Visor web app allows LPs to deposit assets into managed positions. Visor allows a strategy to be applied to positions on a liquidity provider's behalf to maximize fee return and stay within range. And anyone can create a position management strategy. We've built an active management framework with documentation for you to use in this hackathon. The active management strategy framework allows you to write your own strategy, simulate it, and then deploy it for LPs to subscribe to. Visor has 3 categories for prizes, with the first place in each category receiving $1,500 and runner-ups receiving $1,000. We will also be awarding strategies up to an additional $10,000. The first category is Uniswap v3 LP strategy construction. The second category is Uniswap v3 tooling. And the third category is the most novel use/integration of Uniswap v3. We will be available in the Discord during the hackathon to provide help and guidance for participants building with Visor. Thanks for joining.
Awesome. Thanks, Miles. To kind of repeat some of those prizes again, the best V3 LP strategy construction will get $1,500 for the first place and $1,000 for the second place. The best V3 tooling implementation will get $1,500 for the first place and $1,000 for the second place. And the most novel integration, the V3 will get $1,500 for the first place and second place will get $1,000. And there's also a pool prize of $500 where anybody who uses Visor contracts will get an equal split of this amount. Next up, we have Polywrap, and for Polywrap prizes, Polywrap will be giving $2,000 for the best hack and 2 $1,000 runner-up prizes for the best use of the Polywrap SDK. Then we have ENS, and ENS will give $150 in ETH to each of the 5 best use cases of ENS for those 5 different projects. Then we have Skynet, and Skynet will be awarding a $4,000 pooled prize in Siacoin to anybody who implements Skynet in their project in a meaningful way. So this means that anybody who is going to be qualified will get an equal split of this $4,000. Then we have the Omni Analytics group. And for Omni Analytics, the most innovative use case will get $1,000. For Omni Analytics, the most useful feature expansion will also receive $1,000. The best dashboard is derived from the data collected through Uniswapper will get $1,000. There's going to be a pool prize of $1,000 for the best split contributions to Uniswapper package. And there's a lot more details here for all these prizes, including documentation and tutorials on how to use some of these SDKs. So you can head over to unicode.ethglobal.com/prizes to get the full list. And if you have any questions, please let us know on email or Discord. With that, I want to just quickly wrap up today by saying there's a few more talks that we have going on over the next few hours. So as you may remember from Joe's video, Aztec Protocol will be doing a talk at 3 p.m. Eastern on how to make private swaps work using the Aztec Protocol. Then there's also a quiz from the UGP side on just a Halloween Friday night quiz that will be happening online. You can check out all those details again on the website schedule. And then Kevin and Jordan will be giving a talk on how to use the Polywrap SDK and making your lives easier by just getting a lot of Web3 utilities quickly integrated and available. Then at 6 p.m. Eastern, we'll be doing our ideation and brainstorming sessions. If you're looking for ideas and are interested in getting some feedback or getting some inspiration to figure out what you want to do for the next week, you can join this call. And then Crypto Rachel will be doing a talk on the Uni single-sided liquidity pool. So check out all these talks. In case you were not able to make some of them because of a time zone constraint, they will all be recorded with the exception of the brainstorming session. So please check and watch them later if you do miss them. With that, I want to say happy hacking to all of you. Thanks for joining us for this opening keynote. And I wish all 300 of you happy hacking, and we'll see you all on Discord. So let us know if you have any questions. And for all of you who are going to ask about the POAPs, they will be emailed to you in 14 days. If you signed in to global.tv, you will get an email with the claim link. So thanks, everybody. Happy hacking, and see you all on Discord.